Okay, today is, I don't know, middle of April, and this is the Tarot Q&A number 3. And today, I okay, people normally, the normal rule is get ready, take aim, and fire. Right, that's a kind of normal way of doing things. And years ago, and I can't remember who it was, but he said his philosophy was get ready, fire, aim. And I like that because there's something to be said for, let me move this light in case it's in the way. There's something to be said for just do things and see where they lead. And if you like where they go, keep doing it. If you don't like where they go, then stop doing it or do something else or change it a little bit. So today, and with this, I have no grand plan. I've got some notes here. I have no grand plan, but this is something random that you might enjoy, partly because it's about you personally, even though I'm talking to a camera. It's about you and how you think and how you learn and how you read cards. And I think it'll be useful. So in the last few months, I spent random amounts of time looking at different things. And something that I found and did something with was I watched some lectures or talks by Noam Chomsky, who's a linguist, went to or taught at MIT, and he's well known as a philosopher, linguistics professor. Anyway, so he said in one of the lectures, he was talking about how we learn language. And it's actually quite stupendous what human beings, and that includes you, what we're capable of when we come to learn language. Because it's not like when we're little, they teach us grammar and we gradually, if you've ever learned a second language, they spend a lot of time on grammar and vocabulary and all the rest of it. But you didn't actually learn that way. And so what Chomsky says is that it's as if you're born with arms and legs, right? And the arms and legs grow. And in the same way, we're born with the ability to learn language, and the ability and the language itself grows. So you might want to consider that for yourself. So it's not so much that you learn to speak by somebody giving you, obviously when you're a baby they say mama and dada and so on, there's a lot of repetition, but quite quickly people talk to you in full complete sentences, and so you learn, but it's not being taught. You sort of, and this is the Chomsky idea that you learn by growing a sense of language. So I wrote down then Apollonia to remind me. So when my grandson was maybe 3.5, my daughter's really good at remembering word for word lines from movies, and we sometimes joke about this. So at one time we were talking about The Godfather Part 2, and my daughter mentioned, and she sometimes does accents as well. And she talked about, there was Michael Corleone and he's married Apollonia in Sicily and he wants her to speak English. And she says, I do speak English, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, with a voice like that, okay? Then when my grandson was maybe 5.5, we were sitting at this kitchen table. My daughter had moved at that point. So we're sitting there and my wife was at the table and my daughter and Eric was over to the left, and we were talking and joking and talking about language and learning. And Eric said, this is like 2.5 years after he heard this thing, and Eric said, I speak English Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday. So, and the reason I'm giving you that example is because nobody taught him, and he developed the understanding that this is funny or that was funny. We were talking about language and learning English, and he remembered it and put all these different bits and pieces of information together and came out with this funny statement. And so I we all have the ability to put things together in really unique ways. So remember that when you're looking at a card. It's easy to think that, I'm just shifting this up here. It's easy to think that when you read a card, you're trying to memorize something, but actually you're being really creative and putting together bits of information about from you, what you observe about the person and the card and the question and the weather and the atmosphere and the state of mind of the questioner. And you're putting all these bits and pieces together, and then you're speaking. So don't underestimate you and your ability and what you're actually saying. So one of Chomsky's points as well was that most of what we say has never been said before. And it's easy to think that that's not true. But, and this is the point about this video, that a lot of what you probably think that when you do a reading, you're saying a lot of stuff that's been said before, and you're not really adding anything. But I would suggest that actually what you're saying, even in a simple reading with a friend, which you might think isn't that serious, I'm suggesting that you actually are saying things that have never been said before. So things like hello, goodbye, what do you want to drink? That's all been said before. But if you listen to your conversations and the statements that you make, you'll find that actually they've never been said before by anybody ever. Even though you're using words that people have used, it's the way you put them together and the order in which you express them. That's what's never been done before. So as an example, my wife I went upstairs yesterday and she was lying on the couch and I said, what are you doing? And she said, I'm reading. And I said, what? And she said, she's been cycling through 4 books. And I have to look here. The 4 books. She said, I've been cycling through the four books: Find Your Artistic Voice, The Artist's Journey, Ask and It Is Given, and The Creative Life. Okay. I think that's never been said before. Like when she said it. Because, yes, people have mentioned the names of the books, but not in that particular order. And probably not talking about those 4 books being part of a cycle that she's working. So she reads a bit and then she goes back to the beginning again. So listen to what you say in daily conversation with people and be aware that what you're doing is incredibly creative. And that's you. And I'm speaking to you personally right now. Because you think what you say is normal or common, but it's not. So you're capable of expressing great truth through cards. So you're not just repeating meanings. And also what you say, I wrote down, what you put together is more than you give yourself credit for. So when you're wondering if you're any good or if you're doing a good reading, the starting point ought to be, nobody's ever said what you said has never been said before. Rather than, I'm just repeating meanings and being down on yourself that way. So I'm kind of arguing for, start with you as this creative, capable individual who is saying or communicating ideas that nobody's ever communicated before in that particular way. So an example, finally we get to the tarot, is a couple of days ago I was doing this reading and the Devil Reversed came up. And I mentioned in the reading that D-E-V-I-L, if you spell it backwards, is L-I-V-E-D, lived. So, and I've mentioned this at different times over the years, but yesterday, or a few days ago, when I made this point, I then said at some point to the person who was having the reading, stop living backwards. And I thought that was really interesting. I didn't know I was going to say it before I said it, and I've never said it before. And I don't think anybody has ever said, don't stop living backwards. So, and think about the things you've said to people in readings and understand that nobody's ever said them before. So the thing about don't live backwards, and I think, what does that actually mean? So the thing is, because it's the devil and you've got the man and the woman chained and constrained and confined. Okay, my wife just walked into the room and I had completely lost my train of thought. So that was a few minutes ago. So I switched off and I started again. So I may be repeating, I can't remember what I just said, and there may be a bit of repetition. However, I'm thinking about saying with the devil reversed, don't live backwards. So, and I'm saying that partly because of the nature of the devil, because the devil shows people chained and confined and restricted. So it's as if your starting point is feeling trapped or afraid. Fear is, as people talk about, FEAR, future experiences or events appearing real, FEAR, which gives you an idea of what fear is. We imagine the worst, or we imagine something bad, and then we sort of project it out there, and then we start in that position, in a future position, and kind of work our way back to the present. And I think that is what I was meaning with stop living backwards. So the problem is I think it's because of the nature of the devil card, where the message that you're sending out is one of fear and doubt and expecting things are going to go wrong. And that's why you don't live backwards. But there's a difference between that and beginning from a position of confidence and optimism. Because if you begin, let's say, with the Sun card, or if you are generally feeling confident and you throw that idea out into the future and then work towards it, or maybe you do both, you're partly confident about the future and you're confident about the present, and you're sort of going towards each other and meet each other, maybe somewhere in the middle. Whereas somehow with fear and the devil, it's a bit like you've projected into a bad future, or a future you don't like the look of, and it takes over, and it then drags you back to the present. Whereas if you have optimism or confidence and you project that, you're still confident. It's as if you're attracting each other and drawing towards each other, which is a better situation. And I was thinking as well about the word heaven, and I mentioned this many videos ago. Heaven seems to come from a root from the verb to heave, right? You get something heavy and you heave it into the future. And that heaven is this perfect state of affairs in the future that we're naturally moving towards. And that's an interesting idea, I think, that heaven actually is from heaving. So if we start with confidence and optimism and throw that ahead into our future and work towards it, it's as if what we throw into the future already exists and has reality. So if we throw fear into the future, we have to live with it because we've given it life. Whereas, by contrast, if we project or heave good things and confidence and optimism and what we're looking for, what we actually want, if we heave that into the future, it becomes real, and it will happen. So let's move towards it, and as it moves towards us. I began with ready, fire, aim. So I don't know where this is going to go or what will come of it, but I thought it was interesting to the idea that we grow ability with language, and that what we say has probably never been said before. And that applies to you too. So generally speaking, when it comes to reading cards, understand that you may not think much of it, of what you say, or you may not have that much confidence in the quality of what you're saying, but actually you're an awful lot better than you probably give yourself credit for. Okay, it's an odd day, so I'll stop now, and hopefully you'll enjoy this. Okay, so I'll see you in a couple of days. Okay, bye-bye.